Welcome to another episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast. I am your host, Eric Blake. I am a practicing retirement planner with over 25 years of experience and the founder of Blake Wealth Management. On this show, our goal is to provide education, resources, and support to empower women to live the retirement you deserve. Whether you're single by choice, divorced, widowed, or if you're just simply ready to take control of your financial future, this show is for you. To listen to past episodes, ask a question, or maybe even suggest a topic for the show, you can go to www.thesiemplyretirementpodcast.com. We're also available on YouTube at the Simply Retirement Podcast. On today's episode, we have another very special guest, and I'm really excited for this conversation. Back on episode 29, I was joined by wealth manager Lindsay Monahan, where we discussed specific suggestions or ideas for women looking to hire the right financial advisor for you and your specific needs. But what if you don't need a financial advisor at all? What if you need a retirement coach? Joining us today is going to be Linda Lingo. Linda is a CPA and financial life coach with a mission to help professional women planning for their golden years to retire with confidence and financial security. With over 30 years of experience in the finance industry, Linda has helped countless women create a clear retirement plan that provides them with comfortable and stress-free life after work. So Linda Lingo, welcome to the Simply Retirement Podcast.
Thank you, Eric. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited. This has been in the works for a little bit, so I'm glad we finally got the opportunity to connect. I think this is going to be a very informative and educational episode, so I'm looking forward to it myself.
Absolutely. Same here. So let's have fun and share some info.
That works. So I definitely want you to be able to have the opportunity to share your story, because I think it's very interesting how you got to where you're at today. But I think one of the things that, unfortunately, I think one of the many ways that our industry has failed people, period, but specifically women, in helping them understand what's out there and what their resources are. But it's just not, our industry just hasn't made it clear what exactly a financial advisor or a financial planner actually does. So I thought that might be a good place to start and just say, hey, what is the difference between a financial advisor or maybe a financial planner and a financial life coach or a retirement coach? I thought we could start there if that's okay with you.
I think that's a great place to start, because I agree there's a lot of confusion and people tend to lump us all together, which is fine because I've been a financial advisor and so I get it. But I think real simply, my understanding is that the financial advisor, which, like I said, is what I used to do, is a person who not only is helping a person with a retirement plan, but is also doing the investing for them. So they are, as you well know, because that's you, taking the money, advising them on how best to invest it, giving their risk tolerance, given their time frame, so that they can meet their financial goals. So like I said, I used to do that. I got kind of tired of the investing side, but I love the coaching side. And that's what I do now. So as a financial, I added life coach just because I got a lot of life. I've lived a lot of life. That's what I'm trying to say. So I help primarily women who are planning for retirement in the next 10 years or so, or who have recently retired. And so in general, coaches can be pretty specific as to who they want to help and how they want to help them. So I help women put together retirement plans, specific financial goals on how to get there, put a plan in place to achieve those goals. And then women who are close to retiring, I help them actually go from growing their investments to how to withdraw from those investments, how to finance their retirement. What's the best way to do that? And I got to tell you, my CPA background is incredibly helpful, because then I can help them, from the tax perspective too. I don't do their taxes, but at least we can talk about the pros and cons of which investments are going to be taxed and how. So hopefully that's, so I don't do any of the investing anymore, and coaches don't do the investing. So that's the primary difference.
Was there anything outside of just the investing that kind of maybe burned you out on the financial advisor side of things?
Well, I think you have so many restrictions because you've got FINRA and you've got SEC. And, as a financial coach, I am not limited by those restrictions. So as far as my social posts, I have a lot more leeway as to how I can help women, what I can say. So that has given me a lot of freedom as to the information that I can provide.
Perfect. So if you don't mind just sharing a little bit more about your background, how you even got into the financial services world in the first place, because I think I've heard a little bit, again, I've heard part of this a couple of different times. I think it's a really cool story. So just sharing a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, just big picture, I am a CPA and I have an MBA in finance. So I did that for my first 20 years, I guess, of career. And then I had my second child later in life. And so I had some time off, and I actually had my appointment with my financial advisor. So I had a financial advisor and he was helping me on investing, how to invest it. And it was my annual review. And so I had my statements and I went in prepared. I had a couple questions. And so we sat down, and sorry, Eric, and I'm not throwing all male advisors under the bus, so to speak, but I will this one. So it was a typical, this was back in the day. So, a very dark male desk, deep walnut, and, he's on one side, I'm on the other. And so I had my papers out. I'm an organized person. And so, we chit chatted, and then I started asking my question, and he couldn't answer it. And okay, so this is like so female. So my first thought was, it must be me. I must be asking the wrong question, or I must be asking it the wrong way. And so, so it's like, okay, so I reword it. I ask it again, and he couldn't answer it. And I'm thinking, man, I am really dumb. I am asking this so. And so I like totally turned it around and asked it another way. And he got really frustrated with me, and because he still couldn't answer it. And he goes, and he leans over the desk and he puts his hand on my arm, and he goes, honey, if you just do what I tell you to do, you will be okay. Now, okay, so I won't tell you.
I don't even want to respond. I'm not going
to say on the show what I was thinking, because you'd have to bleep it out. But you can cuss on this show. It's okay. F you, So the hairs on my arm, on my neck. I mean, I was just I slowly pull my hand out from under his. I'm gathering my paper, and and I realized we weren't going to get any further. And and then I say, thank you. I'm thinking, what the fuck? Why am I thanking him for totally, messing with me? And I'm walking out the door, and I thought, I can do this job better than he did. Number one. Number two, I never want another woman to have that kind of an experience, because I'm smart, I'm intelligent. And I knew when I walked out of that door, it wasn't me, it was him. He couldn't answer the questions because he was very limited in his knowledge. And I thought, I can make a better financial advisor than he can. So at 49, I looked up, what does it take to be a financial advisor? And I'm not saying this is the right reason to become a financial advisor. Is just so you can prove somebody is not smart. But so I did. I became a financial advisor at age 50. I opened my office and I became a financial advisor. And it was one of the most rewarding things I ever did. It was one of the hardest things I ever did, because back in the day, you built your own clientele. And I did. I built it, but I learned so many valuable lessons from that interaction that are just like seared into my brain. And one of them was when I met with a client, and I still do it today, until we did everything on Zoom, but I never sat across the desk from a client. I had a round table, and I always sat next to my client because I wanted them to know we were on the same team. We were on the same side. that I wanted to help them define their goals, and then we were going to come up with a way to achieve it and work together. And so it was very much more of a collaborative atmosphere. And so as a financial advisor, I loved it. 07, 08 was not the greatest time.
No, not at all.
To be a financial advisor, but I did it. And I'm very proud of that. After 10 years and having many 500 plus clients, I decided, the investing was fine and I enjoyed it, but it really wasn't my favorite part. And I decided, I want to do what I really enjoy doing. And that was the conversations and putting together the plans and helping people understand, what is investing? What is diversification? What is risk and reward? These are all terms that we throw around as financial advisors. Mm-hmm. And so many times the clients, especially women, don't know what questions to ask, and they don't want to seem uninformed or that they don't understand it. So women will just sit there and nod their heads, and it's like, okay. And they're thinking, I don't have a clue what they're talking about, but I am not going to act stupid. I am just going to shake my head, nod my head. And, and then I'm going to, either talk to my girlfriends or find somebody else. And I think the statistic is something like, if it's a couple and the husband passes away first, mm-hmm. something like, over half of the women will find a different financial advisor because they never had a connection. And I think that's really a shame. I think it's changing, but I think it's a shame.
But actually, depending on where you look, and because I've used that same statistic, it's actually somewhere between 70 to 80% of women will change financial advisors within a year of mm-hmm. losing their husband, regardless of the reason, whether it's divorce or widowed or whatever the case might be, they will change financial advisors.
Because there wasn't the connection. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I still feel like it's such a failure on our side of things, because you know that the traditional financial advisor is a 55 plus year old white guy. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that I feel like when I decided I really wanted to focus on working with women, that I knew I had to work on the way I communicate and how I do things and the patience. And because I've always kind of taken that belief that if you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing or why you have or own what you own, mm-hmm. you're not going to stick with it the long term. If you don't really understand it and you're just being told that this is the best thing for you, at some point you're going to start questioning that and you're going to go a different direction, and which also could be worse if you don't know what you're doing. You don't feel like you know what you're doing.
Exactly. And so I think that's a really good point, Eric, is that as a financial advisor, what I found that I was spending more time educating my women clients, because that is what they needed. They didn't always realize that, but once we had conversations and I educated them, then, like you said, they felt confident in making the investment decision, and then they would stick with it. And educated women, when it comes to investing, when they understand the investment, they actually make better investors than men. They don't make good day traders. They don't like that, I don't know, frustration, fear, whatever. But when they understand their investment, they will stick with it. And when you have a nice diversified portfolio, which means when you don't put all your eggs in one basket, it just makes sense. So I did spend a lot of time educating women. And that's why I decided to leave the investing to others and just to go into more of the coaching. And so I do a lot of educating while I'm coaching. And there's so many different styles, and that's the nice thing about being a financial coach is we have a lot of latitude, and our personalities can come out. And I have a pretty big personality, so I enjoy that.
Well, and I think that's just again, big part of the misunderstanding and where we failed in the financial services world is thinking that a financial advisor just does investments, and that's mm-hmm. not necessarily the case. At least that's not for our practice. We do a lot of the tax planning. We do a lot of the retirement income planning. So I'm sure there's a lot of crossover in terms of what you do and what we do. But I think the biggest key and what I hope to take out of this conversation is find the right person for you, whether you want a coach or financial advisor or financial planner. Find the person that you sync with, that you feel like understands you and communicates with you. And if you need education, does that person provide the type of education you're looking for?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, many of my clients, also have a financial advisor, but don't feel like they're getting the coaching, the education, or the financial planning, which is unfortunate. And then other clients of mine are really confident in their investing and can either go with more of a do-it-yourself type approach, which is fine. Either way, I think the important thing is to know the individual, and that the individual knows themselves and feels confident, in right. whatever approach they decide to take.
Awesome. Well, let's get into just a couple of additional questions. And I think just starting with the big one, why is it so important for women to save for their own retirement?
Oh my God. I think I need like 3 days.
We got like 20 minutes, so we'll do the best we can.
Okay. Absolutely. Well, first of all, women live longer. So on average, 5 years. So we've got that one. And because of that, then you've got more probably healthcare costs in retirement. Like you said, more than half of the women going into retirement are single, either, widowed, divorced, whatever. So they do have to plan for themselves. That's a huge one. The other one is because of probably their pay history. So unfortunately, we still have pay inequality. Women are, on average, this is white women, are making 80 cents on the dollar. If you're talking about Black women or Latinos, it gets worse, which is so unfortunate, so unfortunate. And then you have the career breaks. So, women taking time off to have a child, then on average, I was shocked and I want to read the statistic because it was like, oh my gosh. So it can affect as much as they could be getting like 80% less Social Security benefits just because of time out of the workforce. Of course, they're going to be getting less pay because of they're out of the workforce. And then we have, so that's for childbearing. And then typically, statistically, girls are the ones who typically take time off to take care of their parents. Mm-hmm. And so then you've got probably in your later earning years, which tend to be your higher earning years, you may be out of the workforce. And so I think on average, it was something like you're going to give up over $135,000 in Social Security benefits because you are spending on average 3 to 5 years taking care of your parents. So there's a lot of factors: your basic pay inequality, taking time off to have kids, and then taking time off to be a caregiver. And unfortunately, and that's the women's side of it. And that's why it is so important for us to be prepared. And then divorce, and gray divorce is on the rise. And that means anyone divorcing after age 50. And I can speak to that because that happened to me. And so, you might have your life planned, and I think retirement, you've got this wonderful plan I'll put in place, and then retirement happens at age 60, 65, 70. And all of a sudden you've got half, if you're lucky, of what you thought you were going to have. So that's just some of the big points, the major points on why we have to plan for our own retirement.
Well, and that's why, one of the things I wanted to do with this show when I first started, we're almost a year, almost to our year anniversary. And actually, by the time this comes out, we'll be past that year anniversary. But I wanted to make sure that we were bringing those types of resources, people like yourself, but also resources around caregiving and what the implications are. We've done a couple of different episodes specifically on Social Security and being aware of what the implications are if you've missed time. Making sure you understand your spousal benefits, and as you've talked about with the great divorce, ex-spousal benefits and survivor benefits. Both ex-spouse and spouse survivor benefits become just so important that, that's one of the very few income sources that we all have, or specifically women, that is guaranteed for life and also will increase every year because of cost of living. And regardless of your feelings about Social Security, and that's another show, but it is there. So if you've got it, you got to make sure you're maximizing it, or what I call optimizing, because that can be different. Those two concepts can be different. Right. One of the things you shared a couple of potential topics that we could discuss, and I think this kind of ties into what we just talked about around planning for retirement. but you talked about the 4 intentional steps for a financial plan. Would you mind walking through what those 4 steps are?
Yeah. So when I coach women, I use the VIIP method, which I developed. And so step 1 is knowing your values, and values need to be linked to your goals in order for you to actually carry forward and accomplish those goals. So we talk about values and money mindset. A lot of women come into coaching with a very scarcity mindset or fear mindset. And so we do a lot on mindset and values because that's the foundation. And that's one thing I would say that's a big differentiator between what I do and financial advisors. They're much more money focused. And I would say I am much more mind focused. And so that's where we start with the V. The first I is what I call the intentional money spending plan. I don't use the word budget. I actually hate the word budget. I find it very constricting, very restraining, and it just makes me want to push back. So I use an intentional money spending and saving plan. I help clients actually save out of debt if that's an issue. But I like the word intentional because it gives you a sense of control and being able to set up your money buckets in a way that serves you. So we do that. So we do a lot of work around that. Then the second I is investing. And so I do a lot of education on investing, talk about the basics of, diversifying and risk and allocation and all those technical terms. We break it down so it's very easy to understand. And then the P is to protect what you've worked so hard to build. And that's where they leave a legacy, either both now and later in life. And I'm not an attorney, so I don't do any of the, legal documents or anything like that, but we have the conversations and they draw up a plan and go from there. So that's my strategy that I use with my clients is the VIIP.
What I think my mindset is, especially when working with women, is such an important factor. Do you know, I think you probably do. Do you know Ellen Rogan?
Oh, yeah.
So she was on episode 16 and she just came out with at that time, it just come out with her new book, Messages from Money.
Yeah.
And we actually gave away 100 copies of that signed by Ellen, which was awesome, at our International Women's Day event that we had in March. And we got so much great feedback. And actually I started giving that. So when we have a new client that goes through our new, our prospective client process, that's one of the gifts we give away now is her book, because she just gets a great job of just thinking, the intuition and all these different ways of thinking about your money to improve the decision making, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's so much of what women go through is if you don't feel like you've got the knowledge or the awareness, there are still things that women can bring to the table that will help them make better decisions. And a lot of times just that intuition, that feeling of this is the right thing for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, Ellen's a wonderful person. I love her books.
What do you think what hampers women from saving for retirement? What do you think some of those roadblocks are that you've come across?
Well, I think a big one is they don't understand investing, so they keep their money in cash or savings or a money market account. And granted, I mean, interest rates are nice right now. They haven't been, historically for quite a while. And because of inflation, they're actually losing purchasing power.
Right.
So that is a big hindrance to them growing their retirement accounts. So once again, that's why I think it's so important to understand investing and how it works. And it doesn't have to be scary, and it can be your friend, and how to make it your friend. And so that's a big deal, is getting them from savings into investing.
Well, I've got and actually I share one of my own examples. So my wife was a teacher for 25 years, and she still stays in contact with a lot of her friends and associates. And from time to time, somebody will reach out to her. And we just recently, I don't even remember how she reached out, if it was a text message or what it was, but she said, hey, she's a teacher. I've got about 5 more years before I retire. I want to start putting, what type of savings options do you have? What types of savings account options do you have? I got about $500 a month. I want to put into something to supplement my pension, my teacher retirement pension. We're like, okay, if we can, let's just set up a call. There's no obligation. Let's talk about what that looks like and what that, putting it in a savings account, what the potential implications are. Because ultimately, if you retire in 5 years, you probably have another 30 plus years to live. Yep. Putting it in a savings account is probably not going to be the best long term to make your money last.
No, not at all. And so, yeah, once again, is that education, helping them understand that and what their options are. Yeah.
Would you have any, I always love to get an idea. Are there any real life examples? You don't have to mention any names, but a scenario where you worked with one of your clients and you just say, hey, this is the end result. This is why I do what I do. I made a big impact in this person's life. Just an example of somebody maybe that you had that experience with.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, one of my most recent clients, she was a university president. She wanted to retire, but she was really afraid of running out of money. She really didn't think she had enough saved for her retirement. And so she came to me and, on average, a person, who's worked most of the year will have at least 3 to 6 retirement accounts kind of floating around out there. And so our first step was to bring those together. We defined her retirement goals. We got really granular, so she had a really solid understanding of what she really wanted her retirement to look like, what it felt like. We talked about the social and the emotional aspects, which are also very important to consider in retiring. And then we put a plan together, and we were able to look at the numbers after we had talked about those other aspects. And she saw that, in fact, she did have enough money to retire. And then we looked at, what was the best way to draw down those retirement buckets that she had accumulated. And that really helped her to see, okay, so this is number 1 bucket, and then it's number 2. We talked about, okay, you should have, cash for the next couple of years because you want to let this grow. And then we had our 3 to 5 year bucket, and then we had our longer term buckets, and, how to distribute your investments across those. And she felt so good. And she retired a year later, and she is now enjoying her brand new retirement home. And it's a new community, which she had researched. She knew that's where she wanted to retire. And as a result, she was very active in Rotary. And so she's now active in Rotary. So that's getting her involved in the community. And it's that social network that's really important. Yeah. And she also decided to get a part-time job. And it wasn't necessarily for the money. It was to meet the people. It was to give her a reason to get out. And once again, to be more active in the community. And she is loving it. She also has some travel plans. So that was part of her retirement plan, was she knew she wanted to travel once a year to bigger travel, and then, smaller things domestically. And so she's been able to implement that. And every now and then she'll just say, so she went from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance. I can do this. This will work. I can see it on paper. I can see the numbers on my accounts. And I worked with her financial advisor, her and her financial advisor. So we were a team. It's not one against the other. It's a team. Right. And that's really important when you're retiring or considering retiring, is getting that team together. So she's very happy. And anyway, that's a great success story.
Awesome. How would somebody finds you online or checks out your website, they want to engage with you, kind of what's that first process? What's that first step look like if they wanted to interact with you?
Yeah. So I offer a 20-minute complimentary call. They can obviously go onto my website, lindalingo.com, and schedule it right there. I'm on social media, LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, and on Instagram. Okay, my daughter came up with this. I'm Money Mama Mentor. So
nice. I like that.
Yeah. But yes, a 20-minute complimentary call. We can just have a discussion. If it's something I can help them with, then I will. If it's something that's going to take a longer period of time, then we talk about, next steps.
Perfect. Any other social media, anything else you want to share? Any other resources that you want to make sure that we get? We'll make sure we put all this in the show notes as well, just so people can definitely reach out to you if they have that interest. But any other resources or anything else like that you'd like to share?
I would encourage you to go on my website, lindalingo.com, because I also have many blogs over a variety of topics, and I also have free resources. So I do have a paper on steps to take to retire financially free. And so if you like what you hear today, then check out my free resources, and then we can go from there.
Perfect. Well, this is definitely as enjoyable as I thought it might be. I thank you so much, Linda, for joining us today. Please be sure to reach out to Linda if you are looking for guidance, or if you're looking for coaching for your financial future, or take advantage of her offer for that 20-minute complimentary discovery call. Thank you also to our audience for joining us today. Please be sure that you like, follow, and share the show. If you'd like to learn more about our firm, you can visit our website at www.blakewealthmanagement.com. We will see you on the next episode of the Simply Retirement podcast. In the meantime, please remember that retirement is not the end of the road. Right. It is the start of a new journey.